Thank you, Paul, for the kind introduction. I still don't know why they have me doing the statistical presentation. I don't like making predictions or giving forecasts of the future. Having said that, there is one thing I will say with certainty, and that's that everyone's forecasts from last year were completely wrong. Okay, so I'm going to share my presentation with you all, and I will be discussing the markets 3 million and below. So what did 2020 look like? I think that this sums it up for a lot of us. We all started off the year feeling optimistic, had our New Year's resolutions, lofty business goals, and then the pandemic hit, and now everyone's out of toilet paper all of a sudden. All parents become homeschool teachers, and we're teaching our kids how to Zoom. And even more painful, we're teaching our parents how to Zoom, which inevitably leads to some of this. So yes, I think that there were many times where we felt like December Matthew McConaughey. So what happened in the financial markets? Well, in March, we started seeing COVID-19 cases spike around the world, first in Europe, Italy, and Spain, then we saw it hitting in the US. And as a result, in late March, the financial markets crashed. The Dow saw its worst single point drop in history. And how did the local real estate market react? Well, we followed suit shortly after. And I will make just one clarification for people who aren't familiar with our terminology. HE stands for home and estates, PU stands for PUDs. So we're talking about home and estates and PUD sales. So again, what we see, March, we know late March, financial markets crashed. Look at the sales activity in April and May. And honestly, when I think back to this period of time, I'm surprised that there were even that many sales. Thinking back, I just remember that time in the market feeling like it completely ground to a halt. So surprised there were even that many sales. So I'm gonna explain some examples of sales that happened that I feel demonstrate the effects of the pandemic in real time. So 2901 Puesta del Sol, very desirable San Roque neighborhood. Home came on the market in early March for $1,125,000. They received 4 offers right away. They went under contract right away with well above the asking price with an executed backup offer. And as we know, late March, the financial markets crashed. This buyer canceled on March 30th, as did the backup offer and the other original buyers who were interested, including some of my buyers. April 29th, almost a month later, they reduced the price to $1,075,000 and they closed escrow for about $10,000 below that. So the net effect the pandemic had for this seller was an $80,000 loss. Now, let's think about that in today's market. That seems unfathomable. The fact that you could find a cottage in San Roque for under $1.2 million, and not only are you thinking that you don't have to go way above the asking price, but you might be able to get it for $50,000 below the asking price. So again, this just shows what a roller coaster of a market we had in 2020. 1314 Hillcrest Road. This is a beautiful listing I had on the Riviera. Similar story to Puesta del Sol. We went under contract on March 8th. Financial markets crash late March. This buyer canceled on April 9th due to concerns of COVID-19. We stayed on the market, and by late May, we actually received multiple offers. And believe it or not, it was the original buyer who backed out who came back and purchased the property. She loved it so much. Okay, West Camino Cielo. So this is interesting because when I met with these sellers, I explained to them that properties in the West Camino Cielo area were not necessarily known for flying off the shelves. And I told them that we very well could be on the market for 6 months, maybe even a year. So that was no surprise to them. We ended up going on the market June 24th, and within the first week, we actually had multiple offers. We ended up selling it at full asking price. And to me, this demonstrated that the market was no longer skipping along the bottom, that the market was actually poised for recovery as buyer demand was for being in an area like Santa Barbara, having something with some more space where they could be outside a lot. So 2020 also brought a lot of fun new terminology, SIP, not to be confused with the seller in possession addendum. SIP is a shelter in place. And why that is important is that we saw a lot of buyers looking for criteria that allowed them to safely shelter in place or feel comfortable with a property where they could shelter in place. And what that means is maybe a little bit bigger of a house, more outdoor space, having that indoor outdoor living, having a swimming pool. That was a big criteria for a lot of people. And then again, living somewhere where they could be outdoors all the time, like Santa Barbara. WFH, work from home. As we know, a lot of people now were working from home and needed some sort of home office setup. PED, we all know what that is, and I'm sure we all are hoping for the day when we never need to use one again. Okay, so what changed in 2020? Well, as you could see from that example of Puesta del Sol, the market was already pretty competitive before the pandemic. We had a lot of buyers out there and not a ton of inventory. Add to the mix now all these people who are trying to escape the dense cities like the Bay Area, like LA, Seattle, New York City. And a lot of these people were no longer tethered to their offices. They could work remotely. So now Santa Barbara looked really attractive. Um, we also started seeing record low interest rates as a result of the pandemic to try to keep the economy fueled. And an interesting stat that I read in one of Kalia's articles was that of the homes that went on the market in 2020, 88% of them sold. And so what that percentage usually hovers around is right around 65 or 70%. So that's a staggering number of homes that went on the market that actually sold. Okay, as we know, inventory was getting slimmer and slimmer throughout 2020. And what else were we seeing? Sales were going up and up and up. So this is economics 101. We're seeing lower supply, we're seeing higher demand. Oh, and we saw a prince and a duchess buy a property in Montecito. So now everyone in the world knew about Santa Barbara. The secret was out and everyone knew that Santa Barbara was the place to be. And looking at this graph of the median sales price, you see this big jump from June to July. And Nancy did a good job of explaining this. There were a lot of high-end sales, Montecito and Hope Ranch, that really brought up the median sales price. So thank you, Harry and Megan. And I like referring to this graph as well because this shows the median sales price going back to 2002. And the reason I think this is significant is that a lot of times we would refer back to the previous peak, which was 2005, that bubble market. And I remember working the market 2008 through 2012, and people were saying there's no way we'll ever see prices back to that bubble market. And sure enough, 2020, here we are, and we're at another record level as far as prices. This is historic for the area. Median sales price were up over 20% in just 2020. And if you take out Montecito and Hope Ranch, we're still up over 10%. And that is staggering considering that the months of April and May were pretty much dead for our market. Okay, so how's 2021 looking so far? Well, a couple more examples to share with you. 5040 Rocoso in Goleta, Foothill School District. House came on the market literally on New Year's Day. They came on the market for $949. They had showings all day New Year's Day. I was one of them. I couldn't believe it was like a block party out there. By the end of that week, they had 23 offers on this house. And they ended up selling it at $1.1 million. So that's pretty crazy considering that all these people were out looking at homes on New Year's Day, not really a typical day to be house shopping. This was a listing that I recently had on the Mesa Marine Terrace, listed at $1,995,000, extensively remodeled home. And in the first week, we received multiple offers, including several that were about $200,000 above the list price. 2021 forecast, again, I don't love giving forecaster predictions, but if I had to guess, I don't see the market slowing down anytime anytime soon. When you're seeing homes getting over 20 offers on them, there was another one recently on Exeter in Mission Canyon that got 20 offers. That's 19 people who missed out, who would gladly write an offer if something else came on the market. So you need a lot of inventory to fulfill that demand. I think that out of area buyers will continue to flock to Santa Barbara. I think any of us with listings who are doing showings, we're seeing that a lot of these showings are coming from people from the Bay Area, people from LA, people from Texas. So I don't see that slowing down anytime soon either. We hope for more inventory, but I think that demand will likely still outweigh the supply. I think we'll still see prices increase because of this demand, but more modestly than 2020. Interest rates may tick up a notch, but not dramatically. I just can't imagine the Fed doing anything that might hinder a potential economic recovery. Foreclosure boom, you know, a lot of people talk about this. I just think when we look at a year like 2020, when we saw so much appreciation, over 20% appreciation, I just don't see this happening, even if somebody's missed a few payments. A lot of people have more equity in their homes than they would have imagined at this point. So I just don't see that foreclosure boom happening. And if I could say there's one takeaway from 2020 and from the pandemic, it's that we should feel very lucky that we get to live somewhere like Santa Barbara. And I will make one bold prediction, and that's that we'll still feel lucky to live in Santa Barbara next year. Thank you, everyone.